Hello, I'm Mr. T.E.K, and today I will be guiding you on a tour of the updated history of Eisenland. In the previous video, we explored the history of this nation on the Stoneworks Minecraft server, from its humble beginnings as a small island in March 2021 to its rise to power as a founding state of the Imperial Arconal Union in April 2022. Eisenland's history has been a gripping one of determination, triumph, and tragedy. But our exploration of this unique virtual nation is far from over. In this follow-up video, we'll dive into Eisenland's recent history, uncovering new stories and shedding light on significant events that have shaped this remarkable place from April 2022 to now, May of 2023. This will be a long one, so grab some popcorn, and as always, thank you and enjoy the video. After Eisenland joined the Imperial Arconal Union, labor was focused on building up towns and infrastructure rather than on military production, given the length and taxing nature of the previous war. My previous video and this new change of pace led to a massive resurgence of new players and the return of some old ones. This newfound generation of Eisenlandians wanted to change to the way things were run, given the new nature of Eisenland statehood. Seeing as the nation was in a stable environment again, the old guard came to the decision to swap back to a popularly elected parliament system. Following the announcement of a return to democracy, two political parties quickly sprung out of the fold. The New Eisenland Party, which took on a conservative, pro-Kaiser stance, and the Democratic Socialist Unity Front, which is a left-leaning and workers-oriented party. Elections were decided to be held throughout the course of a week, and when the results came in, they were in sweeping favor of the New Eisenland Party. Jacksamax was voted in as the president, with the NEP sweeping all other representative positions except for the one spot that they did not contend for. On April 27, 2022, Teschen, the only mainland region under Eisenland control in the far north of the country, was pledged to Tortuga from the IAU as a result of an agreement to stave off war. Teschen was mainly populated by a new ethnic group that was recently integrated into Eisenland, the Ratnierans or the Rats, led by Steel Rexer. When conducting this deal, the central IAU government did not consult with the Eisenland people at all. As a result, the sudden displacement and the destruction of 3 towns there had to be done. This unanticipated mishap sent Eisenland into a frenzy, with people being called up to quickly move everything out of the area and to destroy what they could. The IAU did not send any assistance with the moving process, and given the nature of this incident, not everything was saved. To save face from this blunder, the IAU government compensated Eisenland by granting a new mainland area to the far south for those that needed an area to settle. The Kaiser, a few Eisenlandians, and the displaced Rats moved to this new area and set up towns in what was to be known as New Teschen. New Teschen was untamed and wild land upon arrival. However, the work of those who moved there yielded a web of small towns and a connecting road system. Given the size of the exodus and the fact that the Kaiser was among the people moving to the south, Ryan saw an opportunity to reform the original Eisenland into a completely democratic government. After the exodus was completed, Ryan orchestrated the creation of a fully democratic government in what would become known as Northern Eisenland. The Kaiser, seeing this move as a form of treason and dissension, instituted full monarchy in New Teschen, or as it had become popularly known, Southern Eisenland. Communications between the north and the south were slim, and tensions rose in what was a unified country but hours ago. The differences in political ideologies and the geographical divide between the two groups was quickly solidified when the IAU government approved the official creation of 2 separate states under the Union, Northern Eisenland and Southern Eisenland. This new political landscape created intense tribalism, and fears of a civil war were heightened. Rumors of spies, robbing, misinformation were spreading like wildfire on both sides. Plans were drawn up in the event of war, and arms made for what was expected to be full-on clash between the North and the South. Democracy versus monarchy. Ryan versus a Blaze Genie. Seeing the disastrous direction Eisenland was headed, the Kaiser, Mr. T.E.K, Raven, and Industro plotted to fix this divide by any means possible before it was irreparable. Mr. T.E.K and Industro resided in the north, and the Kaiser and Raven in the south. After meetings between these four highly influential individuals, they decided that the stage was set for three outcomes, all of them possibly violent: civil war, an intervention from the central IAU government, or a reunification. Going with the best option, the four started plans to peacefully reunify the nation by any means possible. Given the nature of southern Eisenland's monarch being a part of the plot, and the fact that a democratically elected government is much easier to infiltrate, it was unanimously decided among the group that a southern-led reunification was better than a northern-led one. Over the span of 2 weeks, a grand conspiracy was born, involving the two main political parties, a plan to vote in conspirators, and then force Ryan's hand. With the plan in place, the execution began. On May 14, 2022, the second round of governmental elections in the North were held. Reunification plotters were elected to a majority of positions in the government as planned, with Industro being put in as the president of the North. Almost immediately after the new government was installed, reunification was brought to the table. Ryan was forced to address the issue. Despite this peaceful, albeit deceptive, method of conveying this message, both sides still did not see eye to eye. The Kaiser and his reunification supporters claimed that after advocating and instilling democracy in the North, Ryan, who was not officially a part of the government, still oversaw operations and ran things, leading to the appearance of a puppet democracy, where Ryan was the dictator in the shadows. Ryan and his supporters saw the Kaiser as an unfit ruler who could not see the plights of the nation or her people, in addition to being an inactive player. With these immutable views the two parties held, a resolution was not reached. After a long period of talks for how Eisenland should be restructured, Ryan put in his notice that he was quitting the server. Following Ryan's departure, Mr. T.E.K was put in charge in the North, and he used his newfound power to ensure that reunification was solidified and figured out immediately. On June 6, 2022, Eisenland was officially reunited into one province under the IAU. With it, the monarchy and council of Eisenland was restored. The new council consisted of the Kaiser, Mr. T.E.K, Industro, Raven, JDB Pixel, Hamsters, Floaim, Steel Rexer, Prifton, and Gustav. Following reunification, Eisenland was beginning to enter a new golden age as activity started to reach new heights, and pride in this new stronger nation was on the rise. This all came to a minor pause when the Octavians, a group of people who agreed to take refuge in southern Eisenland following their own displacement, became disillusioned with the Eisenland government and how they had handled certain things, specifically squatters on their town's border. They plotted a way to strike at what they perceived as a dictatorial government not attending to their needs and restricting their growth. And on June 21, 2022, they saw their opportunity. Using armaments produced by Eisenland factories, their soldiers, known as Octonauts, attacked Maxstadt in a surprise move, killing some civilians and lightly armed guards. Quickly, the Eisenland garrison activated and provided resistance to the attackers. The Eisenlandians, given that they were caught by surprise, were not doing too well. Calls were made for every able-bodied person to take up arms, and the tide quickly turned when the IAU military and volunteers from nearby Valandor showed up. With the arrival of reinforcements, all of the Octavians were killed. Given the nature of the surprise attack, the Eisenland garrison, the IAU military, and the volunteers from Valandor all agreed to make a show of force and occupy the Octavian city, New Octavia, which had seceded from both the IAU and Eisenland immediately before the attack happened. Once arriving at the city, the coalition force sacked, burned, and looted. The destruction was colossal, and to this day it is a shell of a city, consumed by the wild. Any remaining Octavians were booted from Eisenland and the IAU to places unknown. In early July, the state of Paradise decided to secede from the Union. Not wanting to lose a crucial group of people, the IAU declared war on the secessionists. Paradise's capital happened to be close to Maxstadt, and as such, the IAU asked the Eisenland government for permission to use the city as a basing ground in order to launch the attack. Eisenland agreed on the condition that the IAU could ensure their protection. On July 14th, the battle took place, and in the process the IAU military was sorely beaten. The IAU attackers were annihilated, and the Paradisian counterattack on the city of Maxstadt was devastating, with Maxstadt being hopelessly sacked. Buildings were destroyed, chests looted, statues were torn down. Countless soldiers lie dead on the streets and on the walls, myself being one of them. It was a pitiful sight, as what was once the shining jewel of Eisenland was now in disrepair. The destruction was so bad that following the war, nations and groups all over the world donated their resources to help in the reconstruction. Notably, the now independent Paradise, Dracade, Valandor, Tortuga, Aditum, and the IAU all donated materials, tools, builders, and funds to help rebuild the destroyed city. During the reconstruction of Maxstadt, sentiment against the IAU grew. How could this supposedly all-powerful union not defeat the secessionists from a single state? In committing this failed war, the IAU failed to follow the one request that the state of Eisenland made in return for their support. And although they did help in the aftermath, it was of little note in comparison to the troves of assistance that the other nations made. This strong memory, in addition to the echoes of past mistakes done by the IAU, led leaders in Eisenland government to realize that the Union was no longer in the best of Eisenland's interests, and with that began plotting another conspiracy. Eisenland got in contact with a number of other states in the Union, and scoped out their opinions on the current state of the central IAU government. Once like-minded states were found, they were admitted into the Pact, a military alliance in the case of violent retribution from the IAU. After some time, the Pact consisted of Eisenland, Virginia, Aussay, Avertico, and Umeå. On July 20th, 2022, Iceland and the other states in the Pact seceded from the Union. The Union was too greatly weakened and taken by surprise by this departure by so many of its states to do anything about the situation, and it would not be able to forcibly reintegrate those that left, given their newfound allies outside of the Pact. This event would culminate with the complete collapse of the Imperial Arconal Union. However, a successor state to the IAU would rise soon afterwards, calling itself the Autocratoria of Saradra, which immediately took the ideals and structure of its predecessor. Eisenland became a hub of production, innovation, and power, going from July 2022 to August 2022, with Eisenland playing a major role in the politics of nearby nations, creating absolute marvels of Minecraft engineering and making a name for itself in the business of producing raw and manufactured materials. To start, Eisenland became the only publicly known nation in the entirety of Stoneworks to possess a fully functional and programmable 6-bit redstone computer. Called the Eisenland Redstone Computer, it has 2 bytes of RAM, 16 lines of program memory, and is capable of completing simple calculations, bitwise functions, and Boolean logic. Designed and constructed by Mr. T.E.K, this massive contraption sits underneath the Eisenland Institute of Technology, which after the unveiling of the ERC became renowned for its technological advancements on the limited nature of the server. Diplomatically, Eisenland expanded her capabilities massively, acquiring new lands, relationships, and agreements. The military alliance with Eisenland's oldest allies, Skjoldbrodir, was renewed on August 1, 2022. NAPs were signed with Ecclesia and Denthros, and a vassal was gained in the form of Kutayara. Eisenland's military was built up using the expertise of veterans from their newfound allies, the organizational prowess of Industro, and the prolific amount of weaponry being produced by Eisenland's factories. This perfect combination was able to create a formidable fighting force with ranks, uniforms, and training standards. Eisenland's production capabilities reached new heights in the town of Copenhagen under the watchful eyes of Hamsters and Industro, with the two spearheading the development of multi-million-dollar enterprises concerned with the production of materials such as XP, weaponry, unique materials, and whatever the great builders of Eisenland needed. Expert builders used the materials produced from Copenhagen's facilities to finish construction of Maxstadt's staggering projects, with Gustav, who was present for the beginning stages of the building of Maxstadt, as the overseer of construction. After Hero departed, he became the head architect of the massive city, and over the months he managed to build an unbelievable amount of structures, organized countless build parties to engage the common folk, and managed to accelerate progress on Maxstadt's gargantuan projects. Gustav's contributions would not end there. as disaster struck Eisenland again. Good times do not last forever, and Eisenland's condition from the middle of August 2022 into September are a perfect example of this sentiment. It all started on August 2nd, when JDB Pixel and Random Akatsuki requested to Kaiser Blaze Genie in private that their newly constructed artificial island in the far south of Rathnir, Dragonia, be admitted into Eisenland as a vassal. The Blaze Genie, not wanting to miss out on free land and more people, quickly approved. However, he failed to tell anyone in government about this decision. On August 5th, 2022, when it was discovered that Dragonia existed by Gustav, called the rest of the council together to discuss what happened here. Clearly, the Kaiser did not confide in his more knowledgeable subordinates for advice on the decision, as it was a very bad one for political reasons given the proximity of the vassals to Suradra, with which Eisenland's relations were poor given their recent history. This issue of miscommunication and a failure to delegate led to beef between council members and the Kaiser growing too large to ignore. Industro, citing the fact that the other council members did not always approve of his ideas or his methods, particularly with the vassalization of Kudayara, and now with the Kaiser not seeking his advice and ideas for policy changes, departed from Eisenland indefinitely once again. This move resulted in the loss of a large amount of monetary and production value for Eisenland, as Industro was responsible for the leadership of the military, was a large player in the production industry, and was one of the richest members of the nation. This high-profile exit was followed by the unfortunate departure of Floane, the best Minister of Recruitment ever, on August 9th. And to make matters worse, the day after that, Mr. Puthik went inactive as well, as a result of him going to a military college. Fox, having become disillusioned with what Eisenland stood for, and coming under the impression that a Blaze Genie was not a good ruler by any means, announced that the town of Eisenberg and the province of New Teschen were seceding from Eisenland and joining Suradra effective immediately. Following this, Hamsters, citing his belief that he was constantly unappreciated by leadership for his contributions and sometimes blamed for things that were out of his control, followed suit and seceded Kamenhagen from Eisenland. The chaos does not end there, as seeing his opportunity to create a communist republic out of what he was in charge of, G-Mez united Balhurst, Dragonia, and Kudayara and made clear his intentions to secede as well. On August 14, 2022, not wanting to deal with the criticism and seeing how his legitimacy was increasingly being called into question, Kaiser Blaze Genie stepped down from his position and went inactive. Before the announcement of his departure, Blaze Genie chose Gustav to succeed him. Seeing the state that Eisenland was in, Spades, a leader of Valandor and a friend of Eisenland, deceptively utilized the broken nature of the country and offered the newly crowned Kaiser Gustav assistance in diplomacy. Seeking any help possible and knowing of their friendly past with Eisenland, Gustav agreed, which Spades then used to make an agreement with Suradra that Eisenberg, Kamenhagen, and New Teschen formally go to Suradra, and a formal military alliance between Eisenland and Valandor be formed. Not reading the fine print, Gustav agreed to the terms. Thankfully, Suradra alerted Gustav to what was going on, resulting in him immediately calling Spades out on his treachery. Tensions between Eisenland, the secessionists inside of Eisenland, Valandor, and Suradra were indescribable, with all four parties laying various claims to the lands of Eisenland. The situation was sorted out by Kaiser Gustav in time, however, who managed to wrestle control of Eisenberg away from Fox and exiled him from the nation, destroyed G-Mez's communist alliance, and convinced Hamsters to stay. He also managed to broker a land deal between Suradra, in which Eisenland would maintain control of all of their original territory and would give up New Teschen and all of her vassals to Suradra. After the chaos of that single day subsided, Gustav led the nation in a reconstruction. His first order of business was crushing any remaining rebel sentiment, quickly replacing the positions that were lost to traitors during that day. He slotted in another fellow named Ryan as the Minister of Construction, Halo as the Minister of Economy, and production went to G-Mez. Although he was one of the dissenters, he apologized profusely and expressed his desire to stay in the government. which Gustav allowed by his own grace. Looking forward, Eisenland secured an NAP and an MDP with the Union of Loyalists, a coalition of nation-states to the east of Iceland, on August 20th. After this, it only took 1 week for more drama to go down. Another insurrection occurred near the capital, located in Seine, following a denial from Gustav for permission to privatize a casino that they were constructing on their land. A group called the Cactus Gang, led by Pixel, conducted a revolt, in which a small group of people took control of Seine and proclaimed themselves independent. Gustav responded with the Iron Fist, sending soldiers, mercenaries, and a blunt message to other nations that this was ridiculous, and to pay the Cactus Gang's pleas no heed. In time, all notions of revolt, dissension against the new Kaiser, and questions of Gustav's legitimacy were put to rest, as clearly Gustav understood and executed the role of a leader effectively. Bahanja, a people that have bordered Iceland for its entire existence, has been a part of Tortuga since July of 2021. Under their rule, they enjoyed stability under an insanely powerful empire. However, after Tortuga engaged in an offensive war with the Laurent, there was turmoil. After the pirate empire was dealt a crushing defeat in a battle against the Laurent, panic spread like wildfire among the captains and first mates of Tortuga, and regions across the empire began clamoring for independence to spare themselves what was perceived as impending destruction and doom at the hands of a superior force. Despite the rattling news, the Bahanjan people remained steadfast under the guiding hand of the Thalassor, Alexander Zodiac, and the Council of Isle Keepers. They planned to stay with Tortuga for the upcoming second battle, hoping that the empire would be able to rally and reclaim its former glory. But as the strife amongst those in Bahanja deepened, many began to question the wisdom of that decision, and wondered if it really was time for Bahanja to forge a new path forward. Despite their plans to stay with Tortuga, the Bahanja people were about to be dealt a blow that would shake their allegiance to the empire to its very core. The current pirate lord, Fury Astasul, made the fateful decision to sell part of their Ataved holdings to the squatters of Gulfistan, all without the consent of the Bahanjan leadership. This brazen act of disrespect enraged the Bahanjan leaders, who saw it as a grave insult to their sovereignty. With their independence in mind, they approached Fury and offered to buy the nation's independence for the sum of $150,000. Fury accepted the deal, and Bahanja was born once more, shining brightly on the map as a symbol to the region's newfound autonomy. For the Bahanji people, gaining independence from the Empire of Tortuga was cause for a massive celebration, but these would be short-lived, as rumors of an impending Laurentish invasion began to spread, and the leaders of Bahanja knew that they could not face this threat alone. Desperate to protect the nation, they joined the Black Flag Alliance, a military pact between several former Tortugan states. However, this alliance would prove to be short-lived, as other nation leaders were not willing to be dragged into a war that didn't concern them, and as a result, Bahanja found themselves without the support they needed to defend their borders. In the midst of this chaos, Bahanja began to explore diplomatic options with their northern neighbor, Eisenland. This once great nation had suffered a severe blow with the loss of their southern territory of New Teschen and a griefed capital in the wake of the collapse of the Imperial Arconal Union. Despite these setbacks, Eisenland remained a powerful and influential force in the region, and the Bahanji leaders saw an opportunity to forge a new alliance that could protect their nation from the looming Laurentish threat. Over the course of a few days and nights, both nations' most influential people would meet in the metropolis of Maxstadt, and eventually came to an agreement: the creation of a confederation jointly ruled by both nations. On September 2nd, 2022, Iceland and Bahanja officially combined into a single nation, the Confederation of Iceland and Bahanja. Although a mouthful, it is known as the Confederation, or in Iceland's unique language, Eisendel. This, which is on the screen, I'm not even going to try to read it because I don't know how to pronounce it. A new governmental structure was drawn up for the combination. In conjunction with this monumental move, Gustav made the executive choice to pull out of the pact, the alliance that broke away from the Union so many months ago, citing neutrality and no longer needing the protection given the newfound size of the Confederation. The Confederation continued in a peaceful state until a major milestone was reached for the nation. The Great Wall of Magstadt, under construction for just over a year, was finally, for the most part, completed, just 2 days after Christmas on December 27, 2022. Originally designed by Gustav, the construction of the wall was worked on by a whole multitude of laborers, but most notably Hero, Gustav, Hamsters, and not really Ryan, were responsible for the majority of the legwork in the construction of the megalithic structure. The Confederation faced its first internal political turmoil in February 2023 when a communist plot was uncovered. Run by G. Mez, a longtime member of Eisenland, he secretly established an illegal communist party and utilized his newspaper and influence to spread propaganda against the government and the emperor. His conduct was met with a swift kick out of the nation, as political dissension in the past had only led to problems, and the Confederation's leadership was not going to treat it lightly. Being a powerhouse of stability and prominence in the continent of Sparwood, an area of Rathnier that is infamously unstable, the Confederation began getting requests from independent towns, cities, and small nations to join the Confederations in some way. Seeing as a restructuring of the nation was necessary for this growth to happen, on February 24th, Gustav and the other members of high government approved of the reformation of the Confederation into a new entity, the Tengalan Empire, or as it is more commonly known, the Iron Empire. A name harkening back to the nation that started it all, Eisenland, the land of iron. And with that, the Iron Empire continues to be a symbol of stability, power, and strength. Even up to the time that this video is being made, more nations joined the Iron Empire at the same time of the completion of the massive parliament building in Magstadt. The community of Eisenland is something unique, and after being a part of it for the better part of 2 years, the people I have met, built stuff with, and talked at length with are some of the coolest people that I've had the pleasure to know, and they are all over the world. In no other scenario would I have thought me, a person from Virginia, would be talking with and having a great time alongside fellow Americans, Germans, Italians, English, Irish, Georgians, Brazilians, Argentinians, Uruguayans, Austrians, Bosnians, Australians, Hungarians, Lithuanians, Canadians, French, Norwegians, Serbians, and Dutch. It really shows the beauty of the medium of video games, and especially a game like Minecraft with the collaborative nature that just begs its players to take part in. Here we have a community working together for a common goal, a fictional nation inside of a game, composed of people from all backgrounds, ethnicities, beliefs, and nations in real life. It sounds crazy in that context, but it's such a cool thing to be a part of, even if it's all for nothing in the grand scheme of things. With that, I thank you for watching this video. I also extend my thanks to those who made this video possible, helping me edit the script and providing me with the resources to make this the best it can be. I hope you had a good time watching, and I wish you the best. Goodbye.